99% of guys carrying concealed right now think their bone-stock plastic pistol is enough to survive a violent encounter. And that outdated, stubborn mindset is exactly what gets good people neutralized out on the streets when the bullets actually start flying. Look, the entire firearms industry completely shifted this year, bringing heavily ported barrels, massive magazine capacities, and direct-mounted red dot optics straight from the high-speed competition world right into your daily inside the waistband holster. You think you know exactly what a reliable, everyday carry setup looks like. But wait until you see the wildly flat-shooting, compensated hardware that is completely dominating the tactical space and replacing all the old legacy platforms. Honestly, it is time to stop buying bad defensive gear just because some guy behind a gun counter told you it worked 10 years ago. So lock in and pay attention to the 7 rawest 9mm platforms, rewriting the absolute rules of survival. Moving on to number 7, we are stepping into the world of the Sauer P365X Macro Comp. This rig eats 9mm for breakfast and gives you an absurd 17 rounds of onboard capacity in a chassis that is just barely over 1 inch thick. Look, most guys think micro compacts have to kick like crazy, but SIG completely changed the game here. Under the hood, this pistol runs a 3.1-inch barrel hidden inside a longer 3.7-inch slide. The magic happens because that empty space up front acts as an integrated expansion chamber. When that round leaves the barrel, supersonic gases vent straight up through the slide ports, physically forcing the muzzle down and keeping your sights locked on target. It runs flawlessly even on cheap 115 grain target loads without messing with spring weights. Taking it to the range, the trigger snaps like stepping on a dry pine cone, giving you a very predictable wall. When you pull through, the recoil feels like a polite shove against your palms, rather than the violent whip you usually get from small defensive tools. You can easily dump an entire magazine and keep your dot perfectly centered to neutralize a threat with rapid follow-up shots. But here's the truth. The noise from this setup is an absolute deal breaker for some guys. Because of those top ports, the concussion is violently loud, making it punishing to shoot inside an indoor facility without doubled-up hearing protection. If you have to deploy this inside a hallway, your ears will definitely be ringing. To get this kind of firepower, the damage to your wallet is roughly 800. Stepping up the game, we are looking at the Walther PDP Series. This workhorse slings 9mm downrange with absolute authority, and it comes in capacities ranging from 15 up to 20 rounds, depending on the frame size you select. Honestly, this thing is a masterpiece straight out of the box. Whether you grab the lightweight polymer frame weighing in at 27 ounces with a 4-inch barrel, or the heavy-duty steel frame tipping the scales at 41 ounces with a 5-inch barrel, you're getting a rig built for serious home defense and survival scenarios. Under the hood, the real mechanical advantage is the dynamic performance trigger. It uses a refined striker mechanism that hits a solid wall and then breaks like a frozen icicle. But what really matters is how it functions under pressure. The internal sear geometry gives you an incredibly short reset, eliminating shooter error and letting you run the gun at blinding speeds. Paired with their signature hexagonal grip texture that physically bites into your epidermis for maximum friction, this platform locks into your bare hands like a vice grip. When you actually send it down range, the recoil impulse is completely dialed in. The slide tracks like a freight train on rails, snapping back to zero almost on autopilot. If you are running the F-Series model, which Walther specifically engineered with a reduced grip circumference, you get perfect mechanical leverage on that trigger shoe, even if you have shorter fingers. It is a tack driver, totally reliable, and built to survive the absolute worst environments you can drag it through. Let's be real, no rig is entirely perfect. If you have massive meat hooks for hands, you're going to run into a highly frustrating ergonomic deal breaker. Guys with an aggressive, high purchase grip naturally ride the factory slide release with their thumbs, meaning the slide fails to lock back on an empty magazine. That is a massive headache during an emergency reload when seconds matter. If you can train around that quirk, the baseline polymer models will set you back roughly 600. Now we get serious as we enter the realm of the Staccato HD C4X. This high-end piece of hardware feeds on 9mm and gives you 15 rounds of capacity in a 25-ounce metal frame. Look, this rig is undeniably solid, but wait until you see the absolute monster sitting at number 1. Taking the 2011 platform and shrinking it down for everyday concealment changes everything for guys who need maximum performance on the street. Getting down to the mechanics. The real advantage here is the straight pull 1911 style trigger. Unlike typical striker-fired guns that use a hinged sweeping motion, this system allows you to apply rearward pressure in an absolutely straight line. Because the trigger pulls straight back, it completely eliminates lateral front sight deviation right at the exact moment the internal sear breaks. When you press that shoe, it fractures like stepping on a thin sheet of winter ice. Sending rounds downrange is a wildly smooth experience. Thanks to the 4-inch barrel with an integrated compensator wrapped inside that solid metal chassis, the muzzle rise is practically non-existent. The kick feels like a heavy vault door quietly clicking shut, completely absorbing the violent energy of the shot. They even ditched the old proprietary magazines and built this setup to run on standard Glock mags, making it a logistical dream for law enforcement and civilian contractors. But here is the deal. We need to talk about the massive financial hurdle attached to this platform. While moving to common magazines helps, the gun itself will severely punish your bank account and drain your funds. If you want to carry this level of premium tactical engineering, street price is roughly $3,500. Taking the escalation even further, we are taking a hard look at the Smith & Wesson M&P 9mm 2.0 compact carry comp. I know the fanboys will hate this, so sound off below if you trust this rig. This fighter eats 9mm effortlessly, packing 15 rounds into a tight profile that weighs in at exactly 25.4 ounces unloaded. Looking under the hood, the real star of the show is the power port system cut into the 4.22-inch stainless steel barrel. This is not just a hole in the metal. It precisely redirects high-pressure expanding gases vertically during the firing cycle, mechanically forcing the front end down to counteract rearward torque. Paired with their clear sight cut on the slide, it acts as a physical shield, so carbon fouling never blasts back onto your optical lens during heavy strings of fire. When you step up to the firing line, the recoil impulse feels like a fast rhythmic drum beat rather than a chaotic struggle. Thanks to that performance center flat face trigger, it breaks like a dry glass rod snapping in half, giving you an extremely positive tactile reset. Out in the real world, that 18-degree grip angle forces your wrist into a natural point of aim, making rapid target transitions feel practically effortless. Listen, no weapon is flawless, and we need to talk about the aggressive grip texture. While it locks into your hands perfectly when you are sweating, that sandpaper finish will absolutely shred your cover garments and chew up your bare skin if you run it inside the waistband without an undershirt. It is a genuine annoyance for daily concealment if you do not plan around it. If you want this level of ported performance, it sets you back around 800. Entering the elite tier, we are putting the CZ Shadow 2 carry under the microscope. This all-metal rig slings 9mm downrange with absolute authority and gives you 15 rounds on tap, bringing championship race gun DNA into a true defensive package changes the equation entirely for guys who carry every day. Diving into the hardware, the secret sauce here is the slide-and-frame architecture. Unlike standard pistols, where the slide rides on the outside, the slide rails run completely inside the metal frame. This radically lowers the bore axis to sit directly in line with your wrist, practically eliminating muzzle flip completely. It features a 4-inch fluted bull barrel that acts as a massive physical shock absorber during the firing cycle. Pressing through that double action to single action trigger is a massive upgrade over a standard plastic gun. The single action point breaks cleanly like snapping a thick oak branch right at 4.1 pounds. Managing the recoil on this setup feels like rolling a heavy bowling ball down a smooth wooden lane. It just glides backward effortlessly. Because it tips the scales at 30.5 ounces unloaded, it soaks up that kinetic energy and keeps your optic locked onto the target without bouncing. Honestly, we have to address the upkeep. This platform requires a very complex periodic maintenance schedule compared to your standard duty pistols. If you let it run completely dry and dirty, it will start throwing stovepipes and malfunctioning on the range. You have to keep it wet with oil to ensure it runs right under pressure. To get this level of competition-grade performance, expect to drop roughly $1,400. Closer to the crown, we are diving into the Springfield Armory Hellcat Pro Comp OSP. This ultra-concealable rig feeds on 9mm and gives you either 15 flush fit or 17 extended rounds on tap, tipping the scales at a lean 21 ounces with a flat magazine. It lives perfectly in that sweet spot where a tiny carry piece acts like a full-size duty weapon. Examining the internal machinery, the real tactical advantage is the 3.7-inch cold hammer forged steel barrel. Springfield designed a single exhaust port milled directly through the top of both the barrel and the billet machine slide. When you touch off a round, it violently vents high-pressure gas straight toward the sky. This physically drives the muzzle downward, totally neutralizing the snappy torque that usually makes polymer micro compacts so hard to control. They even place the front night sight behind the port, ensuring your optics never get choked out by raw carbon fouling. Running this platform at the range is an absolute revelation. Pressing the trigger gives you a firm wall that fractures like stepping on crisp autumn leaves. Managing the recoil feels like catching a heavy medicine ball with thick padded gloves, completely absorbing the sharp shock. Thanks to the dual captive recoil spring system sliding on a full-length guide rod, the slide cycles like it is running on wet ice. You get blistering fast split times when you need maximum stopping power. Look, we have to call out a genuine ergonomic deal breaker. If you shoot left-handed, you're going to be severely frustrated because this platform is not completely ambidextrous and entirely lacks alternative grip inserts. It stubbornly forces your hand to adapt to its factory shape rather than giving you custom sizing options. If you want to holster this compensated setup, expect a street price of around $700. Taking the absolute throne at number 1, the Glock 19 Generation 6. This undisputed king feeds on 9mm without hesitation and sets the universal standard for defensive reliability. It gives you the rugged dependability of the Walther PDP at number 6. But with a drastically lower direct optic mounting footprint that completely shames the Hellcat Pro at number 2. When you need a rig that simply will not quit under extreme pressure, this 22-ounce Titan is the absolute peak. Looking inside the slide, the real mechanical leap is the completely overhauled optic ready system. Instead of relying on those old and fragile modular adapter plates that shear off under heavy-duty use, Glock now mills the slide for direct optic mounting. This completely eliminates tolerant stacking and structural weak points. Dropping the optic closer to the bore axis means your visual cortex processes the red dot instantly on the draw, bypassing the need for tall suppressor height sights. Getting to the controls. They finally introduced a factory flat-face trigger shoe that operates the proven safe action system and brakes at exactly 90 degrees. That trigger press feels like snapping a thick piece of frozen celery, sharp, distinct, and highly predictable. Out on the range, sending lead is remarkably flat and controlled, thanks to the deeper trigger guard undercut and the new extended beaver tail. The recoil feels like a dull thud against a heavy sandbag. Wrapping up the features, it completely eliminates that notorious slide bite and lets your strong hand choke up extremely high on the grip. It also maintains backward compatibility with decades of legacy 15-round magazines. You get an unmatched logistical footprint that no other modern tactical manufacturer can even begin to touch. If you want the ultimate everyday carry rig without any compromises, street price is roughly $620. Listen, the landscape of everyday carry has completely shifted. If you are still running an outdated setup just because of nostalgia, you are willingly falling behind the tactical curve. These 7 rigs prove once and for all that you do not have to compromise on capacity, optic integration, or recoil management anymore. It is all about finding the exact balance of physics and firepower that fits your specific daily mission. Make your choice, hit the flat range, and put in the live fire reps to get your gear completely dialed in. If you want the raw truth without the fluff, lock it in right here.